please, if you can hear me, can you just drop a chat on the chat area, or you could just drop an emoji on the chat area if you can hear me. Okay, awesome. Sorry, Kushana, can we start?
Hello, can you wait few seconds so others can join
Okay,
as
no
well?
problem. Okay, cool.
Hello, good evening, Figma friends. Warmly welcome you all for the today's session, the design process. Today we have Eugene Ebere, a product designer and the Figma Community Advocate for Friends of Figma, Enugu. I would like to invite you to continue the session. Hello,
Hello, Delini.
hello. Yeah, we can hear you.
Huh. Okay, so I'll get on to start off. Thank you so much, the community of Friends of Figma Sri Lanka. It's such an awesome opportunity you having me on the call today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Kushanta, for accepting my speaking event or accepting me to be a speaker on this call. I really appreciate you guys. Yeah, thank you so much. So, as we all know, today we'll be speaking on the design process. The design process is what we'll be speaking on today. And before I go on, I'd like to know what are your thoughts about the design process, or who has something to say about the design process, or what do you think the design process is? You could drop a chat on the chat area. Let me know what you think the design process is. And please, I'd like us to be very communicating. Let's make this call a very interactive one. Let's share minds together. So, who has thoughts on what the design process is before I get into my main speech? I want to know what your thoughts are about the design process. So you could drop a comment on the chat area. Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, bro.
Okay, so I was asking what are your thoughts about the design process? If anyone has, or what do you think about the design process? Please, if you have something, you could drop it on the chat area. Please let's make this an interactive call. Let's not just be one-sided. Mohammed, please. Okay. So I guess nobody wants to say anything. So I'll go on to my speaking event. I'll go on to my talk. Okay. So Shihan just dropped something. He said, or she said, the design process is the way how we approach solve a particular problem. Kushanta Charuka said, approach for breaking down a large project. Any other ideas from our community members? Okay, while I'm waiting for you guys to communicate me, let me go on to share my screen. Okay, so can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
You can't see my screen yet.
No.
No,
Okay, just give me a few minutes, it's coming. What about now?
not yet.
Okay. Let me be just a second.
Sure.
Okay, how about now?
Still, we cannot see our screen.
You can see your screen.
Wow. Okay. Let me okay, so sorry, while that was said, while I'm trying to fix up my screen, Sidisha Sidisha said a process of steps that is needed to be taken to solve a huge problem. Delaney said define the steps of a project. Mohammed Mubarak said the design process is how we arrange details according to requirements. These are very, very nice. These are very, very nice approaches to what the design process is. So, okay, please, can we see my screen now? Can we all see my screen?
It's loaded, but we can't see anything.
I think it's coming up.
It's not showing. Okay, I don't really know why this is happening because it's currently showing
Now
I'm
okay.
presenting.
Coming now. See now.
You can see your screen now.
Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so you guys can see my slides now, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'll go straight up to my talk. So today we'll be talking about the design process. And before we delve into what the whole design process is, just a brief introduction about myself. Okay, so hello guys. My name is Eugene Ebere. I'm a product designer and I'm the Figma Community Advocate for Friends of Figma Enugu State over here in Nigeria. And just about myself, I've been a product designer for 3 years now, and interestingly, I'm still a student too. I like to add that. Okay, so into the main talk of the day. What's the design process? As you all have said, we guys, all of us, we have very good ideas on what the design process is. Also, I would like to define the design process myself as this can be seen as processes and get design but I reduce my own to the design scene generally. And as I said, it's a set of processes and guidelines that help designers create functional products. So the design process basically is just like things to note or the procedures on how to create a design. So you can actually get to create a functional design. So you can actually get to create a good product, a product that is usable in the market, a product that you are sure won't fail when it's out there in the market, a product that people can relate to it. That is what the design process is. It helps you pass through some stages. It helps you pass through some stages or processes that will make sure or that will ensure that when this product is out, when this product has moved from an idea to a final product, that it will actually work in the market, that it will survive the market and it will scale over time. So as we know, there are stages in the design process. There are stages in the design process. There are step by step things on what to do and the stages of the design process. The first thing is understanding the problem, and this also has to do with research. The second thing is ideation. The third thing is wireframing. The fourth, prototyping. Then the fifth, usability testing. Okay, these are what I have. But the truth is, if you do your readings, you see that people have different steps, or people see these different steps in different lights, or they call it different names. But if you check, the general idea behind the design process is still reduced to this particular 6 steps, to this particular 5 steps. Understanding what the problem is, ideation, wireframing, prototype, and usability testing. Sorry, are you guys following me so far? I want to be sure I have you guys with me. Are you guys following me?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So I'll be moving on. them. So the first step is understanding the process, understanding the problem, and this could also be called the research. So it is first the process. It is the first process for one to go on if you want to solve this problem. First, you have to understand the problem you're trying to solve. You can't go ahead to try and solve a problem without actually knowing what this problem is and the people who have this problem. So in the first step, understanding the problem, which is the research, you first of all define what the problem is and define the people who have this problem. So basically, in the world right now, you see that there are some apps that are used by middle-aged people, and there are some apps that are not used by elderly people. So when you have defined this problem, that it's I'm painting a scenario now or a situation where you are working on a particular platform and you have seen that there's a problem, or from the feedback over time that you have gotten from the users, you've seen that from the user journeys that these people are having hitches on the platform while carrying out a particular step. So now we have defined what the problem is, that they're having these hitches carrying out this particular process on our platform. And we go on to check which are the people who have these problems. That is setting out the user demographic that has this problem. If it's a platform that has multiple users or more demographic of users, we know which people who have these problems. If it's a particular section or generally everyone that uses the platform. So now we have defined the problem and we have known the particular audience that has this problem on our platform. Next thing to do while we are understanding the problem is to go in to do the research. While doing the research, we could do things like surveys, carrying out questionnaires. This research process, or the steps in research, or as I said, surveys, this is when you go down to the people who have this problem. You relate with them, because for you to very much understand this problem, you like to hear it from the mouth of the person. You like to hear it from the person in particular who has this problem. When the person pours out himself to you, you get to feel the problem that the user has and the user. So you go down, do field research, go meet these people, have one-on-one talks, probably just secluded people, just a set of people from the demographic, like 6 people. You see them around and ask them questions about this problem. So we actually go straight down to the ideation process, which is laying all these ideas down on paper, drawing simple designs or different sketches just to let the ideas come out on paper so you could actually see them. And it is advised that when you're doing an ideation or when you're at the ideation stage of the design process, it is best you work with paper and pencil. One may ask, why do you work on paper and pencil? This is so you don't get attached to any particular solution. Yes. Why it is advised to use paper and pencil is because if you are using, or probably after the research process and you go into the ideation stage and we are working straight on the Figma design platform, one would just want to go creating high fidelity designs straight up or high fidelity prototypes straight up. But no, it's not advised there, because when you start doing these things, it starts looking, as a designer, these things start looking fine in our eyes. And we get attached to this particular solution when we have other solutions to this particular problem that we have not yet checked. But because we have started designing it in high fidelity, we get attached to this particular solution without actually knowing if it will totally solve this problem that the users are having. So it's best advised that while we are on the ideation stage, we work with paper and pencil. Lay down all your ideas on paper, lay them down on paper so that you could actually go through them and walk through them. So you see if this particular solution or idea I have towards solving this problem, if it will actually solve this user's problem. So that's the ideation stage. After the ideation, we go into wireframing or creating actual designs. So why we do wireframing? As we know, wireframes are just sketches of the design on paper, but in an orderly and arranged manner. So the major reason why we are doing wireframing, or why wireframing is part of the design processes, so you lay all the designs out and look at them so that it could be clear. So that when you look at this particular the solution I've designed, one can easily understand it. As I'm going to talk about, the last step will be usability testing, but some people even go through the usability testing on the wireframe level. If they look at the wireframe and they understand how this wireframe solves the problem, it gives them an assurance to continue the process. But if they look at the wireframe and it's unclear, that will help the designer resketch or go back to take the other ideation or to re-ideate again to know if this to create a new solution towards this problem solving. So we do wireframing just to let everything be clear, so that things will be clear and we understand how this solution that we have designed, how it helps solving this problem. Next thing is usability testing. Okay, before I jump into the usability testing, also in the wireframing part, wireframing is actually supposed to be the prototyping section. This is where you create high fidelity prototypes. Like this is after you're done with the wireframing and you're done doing different sketches. We now do the prototyping. This is where we go on to the design softwares like Figma, Adobe XD, InVision, Sketch, the rest of them, Framer. This is when we jump onto these platforms and create these designs actually how they are. Initially wireframes were just a bunch of squares, ash and black squares everywhere with random text. That's what wireframe is all about. But now when we enter into the prototype, we actually create these designs. We now start thinking of things like colors, typography, and all that stuff, contrast and all that stuff. That is when we actually try to bring this idea into life. After the wireframing is the prototyping section. In the prototyping section, we also create some basic interactions that the users will have. Simple interactions such as when this user clicks this button, it should take him or her to another page. Yes, these are the things that are done on the prototyping stage. Create the whole experience, working with colors and working with actual content, not just dummy content. Now we work with actual content and create interactions so that we bring this idea from the wireframing stage to life so that the users could actually communicate with that. So after the prototyping section, this is when you do the usability testing. So what is the usability testing? Usability testing is, as we know, as I said earlier, we are designing this solution for a particular set of people, for a demographic of users that have this problem. Now, user testing comes in play after we have done the prototyping section. This solution that we have built into a prototype, we now give it to the user and watch the user use the solution to his problem that we have made. I believe that's clear. Okay, so let me say I'm done going through the whole design process for a particular app. Let me say I work in the Twitter design team. I'm just saying I personally love Twitter and the whole experience it gives. It's very nice. So let me say I have, after some feedback over some period of time from our users, we have seen that the Twitter users have this issue and we want to solve this problem. So as a designer, I go through the design team, I go through the design process up to the extent of creating the prototype, and now I want to do the usability testing. One good thing about Figma design is it has its mobile app where after creating the designs, you could link it, or you could link it up on the Figma Mirror, and the user could actually use it on his or her phone and not just off the Figma website or off the Figma system software. Now the user comes in contact with this particular product and he or she uses this product. Now, one good way to do or to carry out user testing is sit by the side of the person using the platform or using the solution. Sit beside the tester, set out some steps or some goals you want the user to achieve on this platform or on this solution they have made, and give the user the products and tell the user these aims or these goals that I have written down for you to achieve them, while we, the designers, watch the users achieve them. Like, for instance, I open the product or I open the platform, I'll continue using Twitter as an example. I get the Twitter app after I've gone through the design process and come up with a solution to the problem you have. And let me say, one of the tasks I've given the user to complete is for the user to efficiently navigate from the home screen to the profile screen. Or okay, that's simple. From the home screen to the screen where you change the username. So now I've given the user this as a task to achieve. I will now sit by the user, and I'll also encourage the user to be audible with his or her process. Like at each point the user does something, let the user speak it out so you can actually understand what the user is doing. For example, when the user is on the home page and he wants to click the user and the profile icon, I'll tell the user, when you want to click the profile icon, be like, I am clicking the profile icon. This will help the user enunciate the different steps that he or she is carrying out while using this problem. So now I sit by the user side, I give him a task, I tell the user to achieve this task or to achieve these goals I have made. Now the user goes through the process while he or she is speaking it out. I, as the designer, I am sitting down and I'm taking records. I'm sitting down, I'm taking jottings down of this user's process and the hitches the user has while carrying out these tasks. That is why it is advised to let the user speak his or her solution or his or her process to you, so you can see where he or she is having issues or where he or she is having hitches on the user story. Now, while the user is going through this process, I as the designer, I'm sitting by him or her and I'm jotting down the process he or she is following and noting down where he or she has hitches, and also noting down the different processes he took to achieve this. Probably on the platform, there may be two ways to achieve this, or there may be two ways for one to go from the home screen to the screen where he or she can change the profile name. There may be two ways to that. While the user is going and speaking out his or her process, I will note down the particular process the user had, or the user took out, or the user followed. Now, probably after carrying this test with multiple people, I will see the best way that these users has followed through this process and make that particular process or make that particular step or that step the user followed or the users followed to be the major step towards this. Now, the importance of usability testing, as I said, is where the designer jots down the errors or the hitches the users have while going through the design process or while going through this solution that we, the designers, have created. So that's basically the design process. You first start off by understanding what the problem is. You go into the ideation stage. Ideation stage, as I said, is where you lay down all your ideas on a rough sketch with paper and pencil so you don't get attached to any particular one. We go into wireframings. Wireframing is just to let us understand, to make the solution that we have designed clear to ourselves that are designing the solution. Then prototyping is the step where we now, from the wireframe level, we now build these things to life on a design software. For example, Figma, we now work with colors, typography, and actual content. Then after that, we now do the usability testing where we give this our solution that we've designed to our users and be like, use this product. Let me see how you go through it. So that's basically the design process. And also, this design process is not binding. What do I mean by the design process is not binding? What the design process is not binding, what it means is that if a user or if a designer has gone through these processes and probably on the usability testing aspects, he or she, the designer, has seen that the user has a hitch or a problem at a particular end, the designer does not go ahead to launch the product or to move it over to the developers to develop the app or the platform because he has gone through the whole design process. If he has gone through the design process and on the usability testing section, he sees that, or he or she sees, the designer sees that this user has an issue here. After the usability testing, the user goes back to ideate. Be like, I have made my users go through this particular process, and I've seen that they have this issue at this point. How else do I go about this to solve this particular problem? That is when the user goes back to his or her whiteboard, does the ideation process again, start thinking of how best to solve this particular new problem that he has seen that the user has with this solution that we have already created. They go back, do a new set of thinking on paper, do the wireframing, do the usability testing again. Usability testing to ensure that the problem that you saw the user had the last time, that it may not repeat itself, or also to know if if the users have new problems with this new process that we have designed now, with this new solution that we have designed. So that's what I mean by it is not binding. If we have gone through the processes and have issues at some point that we may need to re-ideate, we go back to the ideation stage, re-ideate again, and go through the wireframing process and go through the prototyping process and come back to the user testing process. And finally, after the user testing process is when you launch or when you do your developer handoff. You move it from the designers to the developers who will actually build these things to real life products. So that's basically the design process. In brief, you first understand the problem that these people are having, come in contact with these users, carry out surveys, go meet them, let them talk to you about this problem. You understand them the more. Now, after understanding them, you ask yourself, how do I go about solving this problem that I know these users have? I enter into the ideation stage. I start making rough sketches on how to or different ways to solve this problem. I set them aside. I create wireframes with this particular designs I've made so that the whole process can be clear to me, the designer. After doing that, and I've picked a particular solution that works, I move it over to the wireframing. Okay, I move it over to the prototyping section. In the prototyping section, I create these designs on design platforms. I bring them to life. I make them pop with colors and with actual information and with text and all that, and all those stuff for hierarchy, text for hierarchy, colors and all that stuff, so that the particular platform can have a feeling it passes across to the user. Because on the wireframe level, as I said earlier, it's just ash and white boxes and squares. But now with colors attached to it and text hierarchy and all that stuff, the user attaches a feeling to this platform. And after creating the prototypes and carrying out the prototyping section, we go over to the usability testing. This is the point where we now test this solution that we have designed for the initial problem. We test it with our users, with these people that have this problem. We invite them in. We will give them this product and be like, use this product while we watch them use the product. And if they have issues, we did. After we are done with the usability testing, we move over to the developers. We do the developer handoff, and finally, we launch a product that we are sure will work in the market, will scale, and will last. So that is the design process. And as I said earlier, it is not binding. At any point we have hitches on the road, we should go back and follow the design processes again so we can ensure that we are coming out with a good product. So that's the design process. Thank you so much, community, for having me. Please let me know if anyone has any questions in any way. I would like to attend to your questions now.
Hello.
Hello, Onifade.
Yeah. So when do inspiration comes in design process?
Inspiration. These are part of the ideation stage.
Iteration.
These are all
Iteration. I mean iteration. Or
iteration.
iteration. I mean. Yeah, iteration.
Okay,
Pardon.
sorry. Okay, this is still under. It's still you could still put it under the ideation stage. As I told you, as I said, when I'm ideated, I'm finding different ways to solve this problem. Different ways. Iteration is just like you having different solutions to this particular problem. I lay out all the solutions I think will solve this problem. I lay out all the designs I think will solve this problem. I lay them out on paper, on a very small paper, or sorry, on paper with pencil and sorry. The iteration process is when you come up with multiple solutions to this particular problem. And as I said, you lay them all out on paper so you can see how they look like. Understanding them, then you pick a particular one you want to continue with, and now carry out the rest of the design process with that one. So in this case, the iteration process is still under the ideation. And the ideation, you think about the solutions and you come up with multiple solutions to this problem. We lay all of them out. That is the iteration. Then we lay all of them out. Then now pick a particular one we want to continue with. And if I don't know if I answered your question, please.
Yeah. Though my own thought about iteration process, I think it's
Okay.
a kind of continuous. I think it's a kind of continuous process doing design. For example, after you make a mock-up or a design of a wireframe, then sometimes you can carry out user testing of wireframe. So in a kind of situation that you are carrying out a kind of user testing of wireframe, then the feedback you get from your users, you iterate on it with your users, then you redesign or implement the corrections. So I believe that iteration is a kind of continuous process at the end of the project. So iteration is just more of like you iterating, like just going over the design over and over again till you get that desired result you want.
So you have come up with the best solution that works for your users, yes?
For your user, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So please, does anyone have any other questions?
Hello. Hello.
Shihan, thank you so much. It was also a pleasure meeting you. And Daniel Valdirema, sorry. Thank you so much. Please, if anyone has any other questions, please, you could drop your questions so they could be attended to.
Hello.
Yeah, Kushanta.
Yeah, it's me, Kushanta. So, how do we manage the design process in the small projects? Like,
Hello. Hello, Kushanta, can you hear me? Okay. So Kushanta said, how do we manage the design process? Sorry, could you be more clear with that? How do you mean manage the design process? Okay, in small projects. Okay. So how you manage the design process in small projects? Okay. You may not totally go through the whole design processes when you're working on some personal projects, but as someone who has empathy, or someone who understands how a user would feel when using a process or when using a product, you should know that there are some important things to note. There are some important things to make key, such as understanding the problem you are trying to solve. You have to do those ones. There are some that you can or you must do when creating a particular design or when working on any design, be it a personal project or be it a general project, like understanding the problem you are trying to solve. This is one thing people lack these days. When people are working on their personal projects or small projects, they may just go ahead to just do designs and end up doing the UI without actually thinking about the UX or the user experience behind that particular product he or she is designing. So when we are working on small projects, we must first understand the problem that we are trying to solve, and we will have to think of ways to do it. We may not even end up doing wireframing. On a personal project, we may just jump straight up to creating mockups or creating prototypes straight up. Yes, that is when you're working on a project that should scale, that should actually come out there in the market. It should pass through the whole design process. That's a standard, so you can be sure that this products I'm working on will actually last in the market and not flop or not go down after some time. I don't know if I answered your question, Chanda.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. So please, any other person have any question? Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mohammed Mubarak. Thank you so much for having me on the call today. Okay, so Kushanta, if there be no other questions, then that's it for my side. I thank you so much, friends of Figma Lanka, for having me.
Yeah. So we have reached the end of today's session. Thank you very much for your amazing session, Eugene. And thank you everyone who participated today. Let's meet from the next Friends of Figma Sri Lanka session. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. Well, nice meeting you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sidisha.